So let me ask you all something. Have you ever walked into a business and before you could even say a word, someone immediately started selling you something? I mean, they didn't even ask what you needed. They didn't ask why you were even there. They just started selling. How did that feel for you? Now, let's flip that a little bit. Have you ever had someone slow things down and ask you thoughtful questions and really listen to you? And by the end of the conversation, you felt like, wow, this person really gets me. Now that right there is the difference between average salespeople and elite ones. And it all boils down to one stage of the sales process. And that stage is discovery. Discovery is a structured conversation you have with your prospect to uncover their needs and their concerns, and also their motivations and their desired outcomes. It is the diagnosis period, but it is not the solution period. And that is why some salespeople lose their effectiveness, because they introduce the selling element way too early in the process, while in discovery ensure you stay totally focused on just discovery and on the prospect. Now at a high level, your role in discovery is to uncover the problems your prospect is dealing with today. Understand the impact or challenges that those problems represent for them as well, and ensure that the prospect is fully aware of that impact on them. You also want to contrast where they are today from where they want to be in the future. And finally, position yourself as a competent resource for achieving their final solution. Now let me bring this to life with a quick story. I mentioned in the earlier episode that many years ago I went car shopping at 3 dealerships. It may have or may not have been a midlife crisis situation, but okay, whatever. Here's the deal. The first 2 dealerships I visited were not great experience for me. As soon as I walked in, they just started selling, showing me cars. This model here has been selling well this year. Hey, you would look great in this one over here. Hey, how about an SUV? Is that a possibility for you? They were really working hard, but they just weren't working hard on selling me my car. It was obvious that I was just another sale to them. But when I went to the 3rd dealership, the salesperson greeted me initially with a few pleasantries. We sat down in the office where he asked me simple questions like, how can I help you today? And what is it that you're looking for here? What a difference. We conversed back and forth, and I shared many details with him. And from there, he narrowed it down to a few options that actually were relevant to me. And they made sense. It was a game changer, and that's why I ended up buying my car right there from him. There was no doubt. I have since purchased 2 more cars there, and I don't feel I would go to any other dealership because of how they dealt with me. Now, before we start to discuss this discovery meeting and how it should go, let me quickly speak about a pet peeve of mine. It is when salespeople do what we call spot selling. Using the same example, if I were to casually mention to one of those salespeople that I really like the color red, and the salesperson immediately started to show me 3 random red cars before ever understanding anything else, that's what spot selling is. Selling before understanding is a red flag. I know it's challenging at times, but try to refrain from doing that. My saying I like red is just one piece of the puzzle. Without understanding the other pieces of it, how would they know which red cards made sense for me? So they're really just wasting my time, and no one wants their time wasted. There's a specific time to sell in the process, but that time isn't during the discovery. Discovery is strictly to diagnose and find out what their full story is. That way you can provide the correct solution and not just a solution. Okay, I'm good now. We can move on. Now, with anything else we do, preparation is critical. If you have the opportunity, go into every discovery meeting with 8 to 12 well thought out questions ready to go. questions that are unique and relevant to this prospect. Now, additional unscheduled and unplanned questions, they're going to follow and flow naturally as the conversation goes. But your initial question to your prospect needs to be broad and open-ended and specific to your business model, what you may already know about this prospect coming in, and your personal consultative style. Now, my style is I keep things very, very simple. And most times I'm able to connect well with people and the conversation usually flows easily. Others lean on more popular questions to get things moving, like what keeps you up at night? Truth be told, that could work well if it fits your style. It just really doesn't fit my style. So I would start off a little differently. It would be something simpler. For example, so Mrs. Williams, what's on your mind today? That works well for me, and it works well because my prospects are usually in a comfortable mode from how we open the meeting. Now, after she responds, I would follow up simply and say, and what else, ma'am? Or if it's something specific, she said, tell me more about that. This is usually where the magic starts to happen. Now, from this point, your job is to guide them on a journey, utilizing all your questions. Now, let me give you an example of adapting questions to fit your individual style. A common question many would like answered is simply, Mrs. Johnson, just why did you leave your previous representative? That's valuable information to know. But I don't love the delivery of that. It just doesn't fit my style. So instead, I'd adjust it to more of a story formatted question, like, Mrs. Williams, building strong relationships with my clients is extremely important to me. And it usually leads to success for all parties. So let me ask you, hypothetically, if we decide to work together for, say, the next 5 to 10 years and things were really going well, what would have you still working with me after all that time? Now think about that. First of all, if she just left another business or company, it is very fresh in her mind. And it is probably, again, why she came to see you today. So what she is about to reveal is why she left that other situation. But this way, she shares it naturally and thoughtfully, and usually with emotion. Questions like that, though, they need proper tonality, which will be essential for receiving the proper response. That's discovery done well. Now let's talk about the questioning strategy. First off, you want 70% of this conversation coming from their perspective, from the prospect. But if you rely on closed-end questions, it's going to be really tough to reach that 70% mark. And things will start to feel like an interrogation. Sounds like you ask, they respond. And you ask, and they respond. But what's missing is the emotion, the detail, and the story. My belief is that closed-end questions, they're very transactional in nature, but open-end questions, they support having conversations and they aid in your building businesses. So from here, your role is to start assembling the story. Here's a simple question you could use for understanding where they are today or their current state. Mr. Williams, can you walk me through how you're handling things in your business today? Now that's just the starting point. You need to build off of that with the questions that you prepared. You need to get their total understanding. So you want to understand why he handles it that way. Were there any challenges in handling it that way, etc. Now you wrap up this section with a question like, is there anything else that you would like to add to how you're working things today? Or any questions similar to that. Now once you have a good feel for their current state, then start working to grasp what their ideal state or where they want to be. You can start with another simple question like, best case scenario, sir. How would you like things to look or feel for yourself in the future? Follow that up with questions that help you understand what they are looking for fully. End it with, is there anything else you would like to see in your situation? Then follow that up with what's important. So ensure you fully get out all their thoughts. Now, once you have a clear understanding of their future state, you can bring things together to confirm and contrast your understanding of it. So, Mr. Williams, you mentioned that today Your business is working like this over here. But ideally, what you would really like to see is your business work more like this way. Did I get that correct? And always follow up with, did we miss anything, sir? Notice we added the word we. That's on purpose to show the concept of team in the picture. You've now established where they are and where they would like to be. And most importantly, they have confirmed it. Now you both can see obviously there's a gap, which again is why they are in front of you today. You can make a statement of confidence here and say, let's start to look at what we need to do to get you from this point here to the one you would like to be at. Does that make sense? Now, here's the part many salespeople miss. We can all understand that there's a problem and that there is a gap that exists, but you must also identify the impact associated with it. Some would call it the pain or the challenge, but this is a huge part of what your role is. Now, in reference to this, I once had a mentor tell me something that made me a little uncomfortable at the time. He said, now, Rasheed, you have to remember, you need to hurt them before you can heal them. Now, that didn't quite sit well with me initially, but what he meant was until a prospect truly understands the cost of staying in their current situation, they may never feel the urgency or the need to change it. It's hard to move people that are content. Warren Buffett used to say, be fearful when others are greedy, and be greedy when others are fearful. What he knew was the thing that motivated many people to make investment decisions were their emotions. It always comes back to emotions. Most people believe we are logical, but most of us are emotional. Your job is to help them feel that impact and that emotion. That's why we use stories and ask impact or emotional questions. For example, how will it feel if you weren't able to retire at the time you have planned for you and your spouse? What will it mean to you if you weren't able to provide that for your granddaughter? Sir, let me ask you something. At this rate, if you were to continue on your current path, how far away do you feel you may be from your goal in, say, a year? Now, you can reverse those questions for a more positive spin, but research states that people make more decisions based on what they fear and not as much by what they can positively achieve. Now, that to me is fascinating, but it's emotion that drives most decision making. It's usually not logic. Now, once you've taken them through that journey, you can begin to transition. You might add a statement like, Mr. Williams, based on what you've shared, I'm confident we can help you get to where you want to be. Or you can even turn that into a question. Sir, how important is it for you to solve this for your business today? Now, that question serves as what they call a trial close, a temperature check. And you use that before moving forward. Now, if by chance they say no, you want to acknowledge first and then immediately follow that up with, so what would be stopping you from moving forward today, sir? Now, tonality is huge again here because this question, you risk pushing them into defensiveness. So be careful how you ask questions like that. When you do follow up and respond, take them right back to the impact. They need to truly feel the cost of not moving forward. But in this scenario, you have a little more work to do. Now, if they did say yes, then at this point, you've completed a strong discovery. Now, before you move to the next phase to present their solution, be careful to not prepare to sell every item you have learned about your prospect and every feature in the solution you may have. You should pick out 2 to 3 key points that came up in discovery to focus on points that matter most to this prospect. Because remember, features are about the product, but the benefits gained from those features are about the person. At some point, it's always important to discuss value. And value is not about what you think is important. Value is always about what they tell you is important. Once you try to own what they feel is valuable, you invite skepticism in. You know, when I think about discovery, I see a beautiful blend of art and science. And science is the structure, the logic, and the process. The science is essential, but I lean heavily into the art because it is the connection point to the prospect. So I use stories, analogies, and humor. What I understand is making a logical approach is very important, but without the emotion, they may stay content in their situation. I mentioned my style, but your style just may be a little differently, and that is okay. In fact, it's necessary because the goal isn't to become someone else. It's to become the best version of you. So you learn from others, you study what works, but always adapt it to fit your voice, your personality, and your strengths. Because authenticity is what ultimately builds trust. Now let's recap what we outlined here today. We talked about a lot. Discovery, though, is for understanding, not for selling, or spot selling for that matter. Ensure the prospect fully understands the impact of their problem. Start with open-end questions to drive the conversation, but use those closed-end questions for more detail and also confirmation. As my mentor said, you have to hurt them before you can heal them. But sales is more about help, so leave them healed. Decide on 2 or 3 key points that will make your case when you discuss their solution. I tell you, if you master the discovery phase, you won't ever have to chase sales, which is great because sales will start to come to you. Thank you all for listening to the Business Moves Blueprint. We would love for you to send your comments and your questions in to help drive our content moving forward. We would also appreciate if you subscribe to the podcast. We work hard every week in the hopes that you will receive what you may be looking for in content and in strategy. We'll see you at the next episode. I'm Rasheed Haneef, Naya's grandfather, and I'll say peace.